Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to start with a quote. The ears of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. Great president once said that. Mr. President, I rise today to make it clear to everyone in this chamber exactly why I cannot support this legislation. You've heard the chants outside this chamber, not just today and last night, but many times over the past 2 years. Thousands of people have shown up, union and non-union, men and women, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, even their children. These are the working families of Michigan. These are the thousands of people that I was sent here to represent. When I vote no, I'm voting no on behalf of the thousands of families. Who are you voting yes for? Grover Norquist? I know he sent you all a letter asking you to support this anti-worker legislation. You are voting yes because a handful of corporate lobbyists, a handful of fat cats in the back are telling you to. That's who you work for, the powerful few, the guys with top hats and monocles. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I work for the people, for the many. I proudly represent them in casting this no vote. I'm doing what's right, what's good for the people. And I tell you this, Mr. President, we will fight you. We will not let this stand. We'll fight you from Kalamazoo to Timbuktu. We'll fight you from the streets and in the suites. We'll fight you in the pit house and we'll fight you in the outhouse. And Mr. President, I'll tell you this right now, when it's all said and done, when it's all over, we will grab the thunderbolt of truth. We will grab the rod of revolution and we will have our victory. And the spoils will go to the working people of Michigan. And you will forever remember the day when you thought you could conquer labor. You were sorely mistaken. Be prepared to engage in the fight of your life. You might win this battle, but the wars are brewing, sir. The wars are brewing, sir. And we're coming, and we're taking no prisoners, and we're taking no quarter. And Mr. President, when all said is done, working men and women of this state will reign supreme. Thank you, and I ask that my comments be printed in the journal. Hello, and welcome to The Young Effect. I am your state senator, soon to be your next Congressman, Coleman Alexander Young II. Always an honor and a privilege to be here with you live on TV 33 WHPR. I have a very special guest, as you can see with me today. I want everybody to give it up for my mother. Everything I am is because of my angel mother, and we're doing this in preparation for Mother's Day. Yes. I want to say happy future Mother's Day to you right now. And it is such a pleasure to have you on air with me.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to come on here and have you on air, just have everybody know who you are, talk to everybody real quick.
It's a surprise for me to be here.
Yes.
On air. Otherwise, if I had known I would do it for early Mother's Day, I would have worn color and not black.
That's all right.
Forgive me out there. Thank you.
Well, we're glad to have you. We're glad for you to be here. Listen, I just wanted to talk to you about a couple things.
Sure.
One, we're going to do a little bit differently. We're not going to go into honoring, first of all, I just want to say we honor our police officers and firefighters.
Please.
We honor our soldiers who are fighting in Iraq, fighting in Afghanistan, who fought in Iraq, fighting in Afghanistan, and fighting all across the globe. We just want to say wherever you're at, we love you, we appreciate you, we honor you. Let's have a moment of silence for our soldiers and for our local heroes, our police, our firefighters, and our emergency services personnel. Please join for a moment of silence. All right, thank you for that. Always a number for you to call in, and right here in the bottom of the screen. As you know, I'm Coleman Young II. I'm running for Congress. This program is being brought to you by ColemanYoung.com. That's ColemanYoung.com. If you want to give a contribution to me, you can go right to ColemanYoung.com. You can go and contribute. We love to take your donations at ColemanYoung.com. That's ColemanYoung.com. All right, that being said, listen. I just also wanted to say it's always good to be here with you. Yep. It's always good to see you. Yep. We had a little bit of a busy week this week dealing with budgets. dealing with appropriations.
So let me know about that. What did you do?
Basically, what we were able to do, what I was able to do with appropriations, right now they had an appropriation process basically where they have something called autism navigators. Basically, these are folks who provide services to people with autism or kids who are all across the spectrum, as they say. So, if you have a child who has autism, they'll be able to provide certain services for them, be able to help them with certain needs, be able to help their parents, give them, certain, consultation and things of that nature, what to do, how to handle that, help them up with the, hook them up with the proper healthcare providers and things of that nature. Services that are paid for by the state. They were getting ready to cut that funding, and because of an amendment that I proposed, they decided to restore funding at the original level they were going to cut it from.
Oh, wow.
So I was asking for more money, but they turned me down. But we were able to secure funds that already existed for children with autism. So I think that's a really good thing that I was able to do for the amendment that I proposed. So I'm out there working every day for you to get it done.
For children over the state.
All over the state with autism, we were able to secure those
Wow.
funds for those kids. That was something that we were able to
Remember
do.
how much it was?
The numbers are coming in yet. They're not coming in yet. I'll come in next week to talk about it. They're still coming in.
Okay.
We're still trying to figure that out and get that exact figure. So, but yeah, it's pretty significant.
That's good.
It's pretty significant. We were able
I'm
to.
so proud of you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Not that I'm looking for that, but I receive
I'm
it.
so
Thank you so
proud of you
much.
for that.
Thank you so much for that. So that's what we were able to do in terms of autism. I think though that was eclipsed this week. By now, they're trying to talk about whether or not the legislature is going to basically either through initiative pass the initiative to make marijuana legal. Or are they going to pass it and then once they do that, make it law and then in lame duck change it, where they basically just need a simple will of majority, or are they going to make it law and then they have to change it or then allow it to go to the ballot, allow it to people to vote on it, and then it takes 2/3 for them to be able to change the ballot initiative of the legislature. Me personally, this is what I think. I think that for people who are in this movement, who tried in 2016 and were stymied at every attempt, who could not get the signatures in order, or according to the Secretary of State's office, did not, or the Board of Canvassers, excuse me, did not have enough signatures to qualify to get on the ballot. So this is the second time that they're doing this. As hard as that is, and we all know, of collecting signatures and getting those signatures
really know now.
and making sure that those signatures are correct and counting them and recounting them and doing all that to make sure that you are where you need to be. For them to go through all that, for them to do all that they've done to get it to where they want to get for 2 years,
Right.
of trying to make sure they got the language right,
Right.
trying to make sure they got all the proper communities in there right, so you don't have two different ballot initiatives going at each other,
Right.
which is what they looked like they had before. I don't think they have that now. I think the coalition to regulate marijuana like alcohol, I think is the one that's on the ballot. I don't think the other one is. And I thought that was foolish and silly anyway. We all want the same things. Why are we divided amongst each other? So, because the coalition to, I think there's another group that's basically out there saying that they don't want this, is going to be organized. So, for them to go through all the signatures, for them to organize, get all the volunteers, for them to be doing this probably for a year, if not longer, doing this, and for them to get there, and then for Lansing politicians, then want to meddle with that and change that. And you know that these are conservatives. So it's only going to be about reductions and limitations and who can't get it and who's going to be denied it. I think it's absurd. And I think it's disrespectful to them. And if they really wanted to do this, they could have done this. Because I think I've offered legalization, I think at least twice throughout my career in terms of actual bill. I offer decriminalization, which is basically if you have a possession of marijuana, you get a ticket, and I've offered legalization, which is we regulate this like a commodity. We regulate it just like we regulate alcohol. That's something that you can use because we know based on medical studies, whether it's from Journal of American Medical Association and other studies, that marijuana has medical benefits, whether it's for glaucoma, whether it's for epilepsy, PTSD, hyperthyroidism, you know what I'm saying, depression. These are things that, fibromyalgia, chronic pain.
And then we
These
need
are things,
to,
hold on for a minute. These are things.
And then we need to recognize that the people who use medical marijuana in the form of, is it
pills? It's a cannabidiol.
Cannabidiol.
Yeah.
Which is the oil.
Right.
That it doesn't have the THC in it.
Right.
So you don't get high from that.
Right.
And I don't know that everyone knows that, because I didn't know that until you educated me on what was really happening with it.
Well, it's cannabinol. It's tetrahydrocannabinol. That's the stuff that's THC. That's the stuff that gets you high.
Okay.
Okay. Then it's the cannabidiol. That's the CBD. That's the stuff that basically you use for medical benefits where you can't really get high from. It still has THC in it, depending on which one you have, but it's very limited amount.
Another question that I have is that I've heard you say that you cannot OD on
marijuana. You can't overdose on marijuana. No one has ever died from smoking marijuana. They've died from smoking fake marijuana, synthetic marijuana, but never from actual marijuana.
And then what does the research, the literature say, the scholarly literature say about marijuana being a gateway drug? Because that's the other thing that we heard a lot about. Is that true? Well,
the gateway, got the calls. The gateway drug is basically, that came from, there was a man by the name of Harry J. Anslinger. Harry J. Anslinger was head of something called the Bureau of Narcotics.
Okay.
This is the precursor for the DEA.
Uh-huh.
And basically, there was something called the Boggs Act. And basically what the Boggs Act was, it was an act in which it was going to heavily penalize drugs that were harder. So heroin and cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they were not interested in doing that to marijuana because marijuana didn't have the same effects as cocaine and heroin. And he couldn't convince them solely based off the drugs themselves that marijuana should be in the same class as cocaine and heroin, so he came up with the gateway theory. And the gateway theory is that if you smoke marijuana, it's going to be a slippery slope towards harder drugs, which has been false. It's been disproven to be false. The gateway theory has been shot down multiple times by multiple scientists, by multiple science. The only reason why they're even connected is because marijuana is prohibited, like all these other drugs. And people tend to sell prohibited drugs together because they're part of the black market, not because you smoke marijuana, all of a sudden you want to do heroin. That just makes no sense. That has been completely shot down and considered to be junk science.
Okay. Can you ready to
Yeah.
take some calls?
Some calls.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect.
Good evening, Mrs.
Hello?
Ann Ivory Calvert.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Ann Ivory Calvert.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. And to the state senator, how are you?
Good.
Okay, yes. State senator, I'm going to call next week about the Section 8 because I got some good information. But this information is pertaining to last week when we had the ice storm. Anyone who called their social worker and told their social worker that their food had gotten messed up and they told them they had to go to the DPE to get a form to bring it back to the Department of Social Service, and they cut the cutoff date Wednesday. What you can do is that you can go to the Department of Human Service, get the booklet, fill out the booklet, and let them know how much food stamps you get, and they will give you the food stamps.
Oh.
So I just want to share that with them this week because I think that is more important.
What kind of booklet are you talking about?
It's the booklet that they fill out when they're trying to get food stamps, Medicaid cards, ABC, whatever the booklet down there.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I just know you have to go fill the booklet out. And I was told not to go online, go in, fill the booklet out, so that way you can give it to your worker in his or her hand. and you can get your food stamps.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Thank you for the
Okay.
information.
And you all have a wonderful day.
You
And
too.
I'll call next week, so everybody have your pencils and papers ready, because there's some great information that I will be giving out next week for Section 8.
We're looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye-bye. Caller, you're on the air. Thank you for calling the Young Effect.
Happy Sunday.
Hi.
Hi. My question, Senator, for you is when we talk about legalization of the cannabis and the marijuana, are you talking about for the medical side or for the recreational side?
We're having a hard time.
I'm talking
hearing.
about both. I'm talking about for recreational, and I'm talking about for medical. I'm talking about treating marijuana like a commodity, like you buy alcohol.
Okay, my next question would be, when they go through the ballots and whether or not everybody, if the voters win, the ones who want to legalize everything, will they still have to worry about the feds? If you're walking around with a card, they still can forfeit take your car, your house, and your body to jail.
Well, listen, they can do that, but what you have right now is you have a lot of people in the federal government who are basically backing off of states who've legalized marijuana because they're trying to respect the rights of the states. Now, you had Jeff Sessions who had said that he would be more aggressive in terms of going after people who use marijuana, but you've also had Donald Trump who has indicated that he's going to be a little bit more friendlier towards people who are in the business of pot. So I don't necessarily think that would happen. They still can be raided. They still can have their property taken and property asset forfeiture. That's still something that can happen. I think we need reform in that regard. So that still could occur on the federal level, even though it's legal on the state. However, I think it's less likely as more of the country is in favor of these legalization pushes.
What about banking?
You still can't bank.
Because banks are
It's an all cash business.
Right.
Because if you use the bank in order to do that, that'll be considered money laundering. So, because it's still illegal on the federal level. Now, there are been legislation provided by banks at the state. They provide them with banking services and things of that nature on the state level in order for them to be able to do that and such other things. But financially, I don't think that's something they're going to be doing right now. We need legislation. We need legislation on the federal level to legalize marijuana. If this is something that's truly going to happen, we need legislation. That's one of the reasons why I'm running for Congress. I think it's time to end prohibition. I think the war on drugs has been nothing more but a war on black and brown people. I think the war on drugs was never about stopping people, criminalizing people using drugs. No, criminalizing drug use, I think, has always been about criminalizing the people who use drugs. And so I think that this is something that was wrong. I think this is something that has been systematic. I think this is something that is inherent in terms of institutional racism and the prisoner industrial complex and mass incarceration. And I don't think that we should be investing in a system and laws that were designed to house black and brown bodies for the purposes of punishment and profit, exploitation and subjugation. And that's why I think we need to end prohibition and curb the drug war.
Right, but that's what I was trying to tell. I saw a couple the other day, and I could smell, and I told them I could smell you, and I said, be very careful, because the feds are planted in our community to, they will take your car or take you to jail because they trump the law. Because the girl said, I got my green card.
But I think,
said, but that don't mean nothing if the feds stop you.
That's true. However, though, I think that if you look at how prohibition of alcohol ended, Michigan was the first state to end prohibition of alcohol here. And then that started to change throughout the state, throughout the country. And then I think, President Roosevelt had leadership in terms of deciding to end, pass, I think it was the 21st Amendment, I think, which was ending prohibition of alcohol. So, the 21st Amendment, repealing the 18th Amendment, which basically was ending the prohibition of alcohol. And so I think that's something that's going to happen in this country. I think that the United States is going to see more and more people who are supporting this. They're talking about Michigan is in line with the country right now. We're over 60%, according to the most recent Epic MRA poll. 60% of the state supports legalization. 60%. I mean, that's saying something right there. So I mean, and they're talking. I mean, so this is good. So this is going to be a huge issue, and I think that if it's on the ballot, it's going to help a lot of people in Democrat seats win. So in November, so we'll have to wait and see.
Right, but just I think everybody should be extra cautious right now because if they're making more profit by enslaving in the modern day prisons, they are going to do all they can not to legalize it, to continue to demonize it, because the profit might be a little higher on slave labor than it is freedom to have medication or
sure.
recreation.
I absolutely agree. Listen, love you. Appreciate you. Thank you for your call.
Thank you. We love you.
Love you. About to get the caller.
Go ahead, caller.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Kathy from the East Side.
Hey, Kathy, what's going on?
Nothing much. I think they should just legalize marijuana, and I did sign the petition before, and I've been following you because you've been trying to fight for this for years, and I just appreciate you fighting for it because it needs to be legalized. It's worse than alcohol and cigarettes combined.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you
never
think
hear about people being pulled over or being in car accidents from smoking marijuana?
Mm-hmm.
But you do hear people who are driving under the influence of alcohol. You hear people dying from liver disease and lung disease from alcohol.
I think over 40,000 people die from alcohol overdoses a year.
Exactly. You don't hear anything about marijuana. So they just need to go ahead and legalize it. But they figure because a lot of black people use marijuana, they're going to keep it. They're going to try to figure out a way to keep us from profiting, I figure. But it's just bad.
Well, you got a lot of people who are profit from private prisons. You got a lot of folks who are profit. I mean, if you're talking about black folks who are going to jail, you charge people, or if you got a phone contract and you charge people per head, it's financially beneficial for you to be able to have a whole bunch of heads in the jail. And they can't get out of jail because they can't afford bail. Exactly. So every time you make a phone call, that's guaranteed customer work for you in that contract that you're going to get. The uniform guys are going to make money off that. The food service guys are going to make money off that.
For black people.
Yeah.
As always. And then, they're going crazy with this opioid problem now that it's affecting white folks. So now there's a problem with drugs. It's ridiculous.
But the opioid problem is best addressed, from what I've read, is best addressed with cannabidiol.
Cannabis. I think it was Sanjay Gupta who basically said that there is no other drug that can be used that does what marijuana does in terms of helping people get off of opioid addiction. And I think that's a lot better than having to carry around Narcan, which is the anti-opioid overdose medicine that you would use in order to help to prevent people from overdosing on it. So, I mean, that's what people are encouraged to do now because it's such a problem, widespread throughout the state right now.
Exactly.
So,
and you hear about all these white people who are in their cars with children in the back seat, high.
Yeah, man.
Opioids.
Well, folks are dying.
All they do is go by and say, let's give them something to get them come back to life. But let that be somebody black.
Well, listen, let me say,
we had the crack problem. It was just those black folks on crack. But now that it's affecting white people, there's a problem now.
Well, let me say it like this. For the Caucasian persuasion, it's opioids. It's hurting black folks too, but not to the same rate. But if you go into the cities, it's not opioids, it's lean. So it's guys who are taking it and they pour in the Sprite and they shake it up in the Sprite cup and they call that lean and they drink that.
Shaking up what in the Sprite
They take
cup?
the codeine, the medicine like the codeine, and they pour it in the Sprite, a little Sprite glass, and they shake it up. And that's their perk, and that's what they call that. So I mean, you know,
Again.
I'm not saying that it's not disproportionate. I think affecting the Caucasian persuasion, it is, and I think that's why we need to pay for more treatment. That's why we need to go after these doctors who overprescribe, because that's what's really starting. You got a lot of these pill farms that are happening, you know. But I also think it's the whole culture within medicine,
Right.
because you know you have folks who get like, I went in one time, I had a headache, had a real, you know, bad headache, you know what I'm saying, and a guy gave, you know, and a guy prescribed me Valium for a headache. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just that whole entire culture of giving people pain pills. You know, and I don't think doctors meant it like in a in a malevolent way. I just think it was just like, you know, this is something that they has been proven to deal with pain. Let me give this person this because it works, and you know we go through our prescription or whatever, and that's what we want to prescribe. But I think it's starting to get to a point now where it's starting to really have a negative and adverse impact. I think the problem is, and I think for the African American community and the Latino community, is a lot of black and brown folks have been overly criminalized because of their drug problem. Their families
Exactly.
have gone to jail because of this. Their mothers have been separated from their sons and their fathers from their daughters. And 1 out of 3 black men are expected to go to prison in their lifetime. And 1 out of 6 Latinx men. And a lot of that is due to the drug war. And so it's kind of like a real sense, and I think a legitimate sense of unfairness here. It's like, I understand it's a problem out there, and we need to work out there, and we need to do more out there. But it's like, at the same token, can we get a lot of these bruhs that are in jail, you know, who are doing 20 years for selling $15 worth of weed? You know what I mean? Can we get them out? Can we get a lot of these bruhs that are in there who are wrongfully convicted? You ain't even got to do drugs as a black person and still be 12 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted
Wow.
of drug, you know, abuse. So you got a whole lot of bruhs who doing low-level drug offenses, and you got a whole lot of bruhs that's in there that ain't do no offenses.
So the drug war, or the war on drugs, was intentionally
Oh, yeah.
devastating to our families and communities.
I tell it to you like this: there's a in the Nixon administration, these guys that came up with coined the phrase "war on drugs." There was a guy by the name of John Ehrlichman. John Ehrlichman said, "We had a problem in this country. The problem was Negroes and hippies. We can't arrest them because they're Negroes and hippies. But we can arrest them for using marijuana and cocaine. By targeting them and criminalizing it heavily, we could," I'm paraphrasing here, "we could raid their homes, surveil their meetings, arrest them, and vilify them on the nightly news." Did we know the war of drugs was a lie? Of course we did. And that's Richard Nixon's brain trust who started the war on drugs. And so the war on drugs was never about criminalizing the use of drugs. It was about criminalizing the people who use drugs. The first anti-opium laws were aimed at our Asian brothers and sisters who were using it. The first cocaine laws were targeted at African Americans who were using it. And the first marijuana laws were targeted at our Latino brothers and sisters who were bringing it, you know, with Pancho Villa and all them guys bringing it over in the 20s.
Wow.
That's when that all started. So it was never really about drug safety. It was always about criminalizing who was using the drugs in the first place. And what we've done is we've made an industry out of this. And there's
Out
a
of criminalizing black and brown people.
we've been criminalizing black and brown people, but out of mass incarceration of black and brown people. I mean, and you can say that technically started, you know, during Reconstruction. That started with convict leasing, you know, with black slaves and things of that nature when they leased them out to rebuild the South after the Civil War. But it was not as industrialist as it is now. But also, you got to remember, in the 13th Amendment, the only form of legal slavery is the prison system. That's the only form of legal slavery that exists.
And there's a book that's out on that.
Yeah, it's called Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow.
Thank you so
Excellent
much.
book. Excellent book to go read. I read it. Also, you should see the documentary 13th on Netflix by Anna DuVernay. That really helped me a lot about what's going on as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Caller, you're on the air. Thank you for waiting.
You're welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I wanted to ask, on the other hand, if you are looking for a job and you go to an employer and you are tested, how will that affect having the marijuana law, if it's made legal? Can you explain that? Thank you.
Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Listen.
You're welcome.
No, listen. I mean, it depends on what company wants to test it, doesn't want to test it. I don't think that government should be in the business of telling what company to test or not. I think, however, the difference is 1 out of 3 companies in the suburbs do not test for opioids. And they said the reason why they don't test is because if they did, they would have no employees. So they are making a way for the people who live in the suburbs to be able to get these jobs. I'm not saying that we should decide who should test and who shouldn't, but we should have serious conversations about testing, random drug testing, and other things so we can make it easier for folks to get into these professions. And let me say this too, just because you test positive for marijuana does not mean that you're high when you get there, because it stays in your bloodstream for, I think, maybe like 21 days or something like that, 30 days, something like that. But the effects only last for maybe 6 to 8 hours. So to say somehow that just because you have blood uses that you're high or you're impaired is not necessarily accurate. And the only real way you can test that is not through urinalysis, but is through a blood test. That's the most effective way to determine that. I'm not trying to tell people how to test or what to test. I understand people's concerns about that. However, I don't think that a criminal record is going to help people get a job. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that arresting somebody for this, because we're not talking about people getting employment. We're talking about whether or not this plant that has medical benefits should be criminalized. That's what we're talking
We
about.
have another caller. Hold on. Caller, you're on the air. Thank you for calling the Young Effect.
I called. I am.
Hi, Brenda.
I can't.
Hey,
I can't see the show on the app, so I don't know what you all are talking about already.
Oh, okay. Well, he'll tell you.
we're talking about the ending prohibition of marijuana, the ballot initiative.
Well, I think that you are correct in that, and I've seen that other cities are also about to pursue. I said that podcast is.
You're going in
You
and
breaking
out.
up? You breaking up?
I don't know why.
Yeah, that's all right.
Let me call back then.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean that's something I think that's going to be big. That's going to be huge in terms of getting people to the vote. They talk about 2 to 3% increase in the number of people are going to come out. I think it's going to be bigger than that, quite frankly. That's going to come out. There's going to be a lot of people who want this. We saw what happened at the Democratic convention. This is one of the big issues, and I don't think this is the issue in terms of smoking pot or being someone who's addicted to marijuana or liking to smoke marijuana. I think this is about the issue of ending the drug war. And I think that a lot of people are seeing the devastating effects the drug war has had. There's been a lot of education about this issue. There's been a lot of information about this issue, and more studies, and more science, and more conclusions to come out that this should be legal. It should not be
Now-
a Schedule I drug.
Is there a difference in the demographics between younger people
Sure.
and older
It's a generational
people,
gap.
or
I think that's closing.
more seniors for it than middle-aged people? You understand what I'm saying?
I think it's close. Look, I think that there's more seniors who are against it, but I think that number is increasing. because you have who are more.
You mean
I
decreasing.
think the number is decreasing in terms of seniors who are against it because they're using it for medical purposes. I think that a lot of my generation, the millennials that are coming up, I think that they, and maybe even some, Gen Xers, I think they are starting to realize that this is something that should be legal, and that they're starting, and science is starting to back that up. That this is not, that it's a drug and it has setbacks, but it's safer than what currently exists today. And I think that's what they're saying. It has medical benefits, that it is safer, that it actually, on its own contributions and what it could do, it should not be a Schedule I drug. And the fact that it has ruined so many people's lives, that so many people have gone to prison, so many people have been locked up, so many people are doing time for just possession of marijuana or just selling marijuana is outrageous. Considering since what you got going on with the opioid epidemic that's going on right now, I just personally believe that it's time to end prohibition. And the fact that you have so many folks who are in prison right now who are black and brown is not a coincidence. It's just not. And it's for low-level drug offenses for the most part.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is.
Okay, we've got
There are
another
more black people in prison now than there were slaves during the Civil War.
I read that statistic.
It's crazy. Since 1850. It's just insane. If people want to say it's about education, look, if you're a black person in this country, you're still 2 times more likely to be unemployed, even with the same level of education as your white counterparts. If you're talking about a black person with like undergraduate degree versus a Caucasian person, they have 12 times more wealth than you do. Excuse me, 10 times. And if it's talking about graduate degrees, it's 42 times more wealth than you do. I mean, these are just facts.
Okay.
And so, this is something that's just hindering progress.
We got a caller. Caller.
Happy Sunday.
Hello.
I'd like to add to the conversation. Also, I think people are worried about when you have a job, whether they test you or not. The day that you have an accident on their premises, the first thing they're going to test you for is drugs and alcohol.
That's true.
So you could be chronically unemployed if you are an avid smoker or smoker, or if you're using it for medication or recreation.
Yeah, but listen. If you're on your job and you've been drinking and you have an accident on your job, then you're gone then.
That's right.
So
Exactly.
what's the
Also, what my
difference?
concern is, do you know that Monsanto and Bayer aspirins are now, they want to get into the cannabis industry. We already know Monsanto is definitely notorious for harming the earth, the product, the produce, and the natural order of things. And so I think we definitely have to be very careful who's getting involved in this industry, because it's not going to be very healthy for the people. Thank you for taking my call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Love you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Mwah. Love you, Gordon. Thank you for calling. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a serious concern. You know what I'm saying? I think we got some more callers. Hello?
Hello? Hello, caller. Let's go to
Hello,
this
let's go.
one.
Hello,
Hello,
caller.
caller. Hello.
Do I sound better?
Yes.
Okay. So I think you all were talking about the marijuana issue.
Yep.
Well, let's go back to some of the things you've done over the last 2 weeks. So you've been in how many cities in the last week?
Oh. Wow.
Not counting Lansing.
Yeah, I've been Inkster. I've been in Ecorse. I've been in Detroit, as you know.
Probably about 8 to
Redford
10.
Township.
8 to 10, probably.
Yeah.
Inkster.
Redford Township.
Yeah.
Ecorse, Redford Township. Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been fun, but it's
It
been
has.
Westland. It's
You
been
also
fun.
went to the convention.
Yeah, we went to the convention. That was fun.
Yeah.
Then we went over there in the 13th. That was fun. Made a whole bunch of people upset. That was fun.
You had lamb chops on Tuesday.
Y'all had lamb chops. Y'all had lamb chops and views. Big shout out to everybody over there at Views. That was fun. I had a good time. You were trying to make me have too much of a good time, though. I had to get back to work the next day.
That's what I get paid for.
I see. Oh, man. We was partying. Had all kind of fun stuff, man. So that was good. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna talk to you about it more when we get off the air. But yeah, nah, it was real nice. It's a real nice. That's a real nice place too, man. They had nice music. They had nice food. I encourage everybody to go out there. It's a bar called Views. You can go online. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure check your local listings. I'm sure you can find out where it's at,
Grand
what's going
River
on.
Telegraph.
Go ahead, say it again.
It's at Grand River.
Grand River Telegraph. It was fun. The owner was real cool. We took pictures. You know what I'm saying?
Business.
It was, black owned business. It was nice. I was watching the game up there. You know what I'm saying? They had shooters. Look, I don't want to go too much into it, but man, it was fun. And they had like different little colors. And oh man, it was crazy.
I didn't have shooters.
No, you did not. I may have had a couple, but anyway. But it was fun though. We had a good time. I had a real good time. It was good people. I saw Rhonda. Congratulations to her for getting on the charter commission.
Yeah,
That's
Rhonda.
awesome. Her and I think who else got the charter commission?
Tracy
This Peters got a big shout out to the Peters.
Yay, Tracy.
You know, Tracy Ted Peters. They got on the charter commission. That's phenomenal. We
so
gonna have some
Underwood-
conversations about that in the future about how in the world they were able to do that with what 4 weeks notice? Was it even that much?
More like 2.
2 weeks notice. You should not run a campaign like that. Signatures is
we
way
had
too
4
hard to
days.
get.
4 days.
What?
We had 4 days notice.
4 days.
4 days.
Notice. Wow.
How in
And
the
you
world
know,
do you get?
What we did, we worked together.
How do you get 500
Teamwork.
petitions in 4 signatures in 4 days? That's
Teamwork.
not how that. Teamwork is dream work.
Makes the dream work.
But you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
And I spoke with Daniel Baxter, and I spoke at the city clerk's office. I spoke with them, and they said it's not their responsibility to tell them which offices are open. It's our responsibility.
Wow.
Whose are?
The citizens,
The pub?
The
the
citizens.
public.
He did
Daniel
not say
Baxter
that.
also said it's because we would get a lot of different information out of those 2 offices.
Well, look, like I said, we're going to have a conversation about that later on. We're going to have a conversation about that later on. I'm going to talk to some people about what that is and how that's going down, and then I'll get back to everybody else. I just don't understand how you're going to be able to get that many signatures in that few days in that beacon. I'm not saying it can't be done. It can be done. Hats off to
the
everybody
people
who
who
did
did
it.
it.
Hats off
Yes.
to everybody. But I just
Yes.
think that's totally unfair.
And thank them so
Knowing how
much
hard that
for
is,
being willing.
knocking doors and going, having done that myself in the cold, in the snow, in the rain, sleet, snow, 30 degrees below. I cannot imagine doing that within 4 days for any position, regardless of where it is. So there needs to be some clear guidelines set. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, he's right. It's not up to him. It should be state law.
Okay.
It should be state law.
Thank
And
you
that's
so
what I'm going to be
much,
looking
Brenda.
into.
We got some other
Mr.
callers.
Baxter's right.
We
I
love
apologize.
you.
I want to give
Take
the
care
number
now.
to the office before I go.
What?
Huh?
I want to give the number to the office.
Okay,
before I
go ahead.
313-675-7960.
0.
Yeah.
Hello?
Say it one more time.
313-675-7960.
Thank you, Brenda.
Love you, Brenda.
We love
I'll see
you.
you next
Appreciate
week.
you.
We love you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye now. That's 313-675-3970
No.
at 7960. 313-675-7960. 313-675-7960. That's 313-675-7960 at ColemanYoung.com. That's ColemanYoung.com. That's ColemanYoung.com. That's ColemanYoung.com. Hello? Caller, you on the air.
Go ahead, caller.
Praise the Lord. Hello.
Oh,
Hey,
Miss
how you
Watson, How are
doing?
you?
So blessed and so glad to see my two favorite people.
Always good to see you.
I want you to know that you have my vote, and all the presidents on Ohio, Cloverlawn, Northlawn, and Indiana are joining your team.
Hey.
Just found
so
out about that
much.
last night.
Well, I need to go down there and say hello to them then.
I'm so pleased.
When's y'all's
You know,
next
we
meeting?
just join together and make a decision on
Yes.
one person.
That's what I'm
we
saying.
have to unite.
You have to.
And I want to thank you for passing and considering laws for marijuana. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do any of those things.
Me either.
But I'm a cancer survivor.
Oh, wow.
And that helped me. Once you have that treatment, you cannot eat. You just almost crawling on the floor. And that's the only thing that helped me. We need to legalize it. It's safer than alcohol.
Yes.
So don't compare it to alcohol. It doesn't affect any interior part of your body. And I just want to thank you for all the work you're doing on a daily basis. And I thank you for what you're doing for all of us, because you love your people as well as everyone. Black, color, doesn't matter. You like brown, all colors. We're all treated equally by you. And that's why we're going to stand together for you. And I thank you so much for taking my call.
And I thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you. Love you. Appreciate
Thank you so much, Miss Watson, for that.
You're
We
welcome.
really appreciate it. You just have no idea how wonderful it is to hear your words and to hear your heart and to hear your love. It is it has really been a task, and we've put our whole hearts into it, and watching him just continue to go and help people has been a phenomenal thing to see, and I'm so grateful for your call, and give our love to your husband and your family.
I will, and keep him in your prayers. We're having health issues at this time.
We most certainly
but
will.
we're still in the fight.
Love you.
And now, can you tell us, we call that number to donate?
You can donate at ColemanYoung.com.
Okay.
Or you can call that number.
Or you can call this number, 313-675-7960.
Now, what amount can you give? Isn't it you can have a tax write-off if you give a certain amount?
From my understanding, yes, you can. You can call this number right here. We get you all the information you need.
Okay. God bless you. I know you have the answer.
Hey,
Thank you for taking my call.
love you. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye, honey.
Always a pleasure. Always good talking to you. But yeah, when she was talking about we got another caller? No, okay. When she was talking about treatment for cancer, I mean, you're literally talking for chemotherapy. You're talking about shooting radiation into your body. So if you want the option not to be able to go through that, and in this state, we don't have laws where we can pass oral chemo, or we can pass it, but it's not covered by your insurance. We're trying to make sure you get insurance coverage.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, it's not. Like, you have like mental health parity in terms of coverage, or if you have like autism, you have something like insurance coverage. Like, we don't necessarily have that for oral chemo. And so if you're so you could get it, but it's going to be very expensive for you to do. And that's just something where you just take the pill rather than, going through the whole process. So it's easy, well, not easy, but it's easier if you have a condition for you to be able to get a doctor's note, because the doctor can't prescribe you marijuana. I think he can recommend it.
Right.
But I think he would have,
I was just reading
he would be
that.
hesitant in recommending it to you because of the criminal implications that could cause. So he wants to, or repercussions that he would experience. So instead, he'll probably, tell you to talk to somebody else, and then that person will probably refer you to, getting a card or whatever else. You get a doctor's note. You get that doctor's note. You go, you get the card. They go through the process, fill it out. You get the card. Then the doctor, I think, once you get that card, that medical marijuana card, then you can go into the store. And you go to the dispensary, and then the dispensary will be able to allow you to buy that marijuana. So that you might have or whatever. I'm sure you'll buy your preference or what have you. But I think that's a much more easier path. And I'm not saying that you necessarily buy it to smoke it. You can eat it, and if you eat it raw, you can get high from it. It has to be something that's be decarbonized. So it has to be something that has to be burned for that. So if you eat it, you know what I mean, raw, you can have it as a juice, you can have it as a pill,
Well,
you can have it as an edible.
Listen,
That you can get
let me
high on.
ask you this. How is it that you know so much about this?
Well, I just read it. I've never used it in my life. You know what I'm saying? But I just, but the internet's a great tool. I read a lot of books about this and magazines and certain things of that nature. But you know what I mean? But that's basically, how I know about it and, basically where I go about doing it.
Okay.
But there's so many other things you use it to. You could use it for, materials. You use it for hempcrete, in terms of hemp. In World War II, they used it. They actually decriminalized it, and they used it for parachutes, and they used it for rope. They use it for clothes, if I'm not
Is
mistaken.
it extra strong?
Yes, extra strong. And if you use it for hempcrete, you use it to fix the roads. It's less brittle than concrete.
Wow.
So, you can use it for that.
So you put hemp in the concrete? Is that what
From
you
my
do?
understanding, it's actually like concrete that you use. My understanding, yes. So, and you can use it for energy as well. So they're talking about using that in terms of alternative energy and things. I think there are computer systems and things of that nature as well. So there's lots of different ways in which they're using hemp and the fibers and stuff. It's very versatile for different things that they're using to be able to build and create. And you can create a whole entire economy around this plant.
Wow.
And that's something that we need right now for people who cannot find jobs or for people who are looking for jobs but who are underemployed. So I think there's a lot of folks like that. There's 5 million people who are unemployed in the country. There's 5 million people who are underemployed in the country. So I think looking for that. And you can create, through $1 trillion of investment infrastructure, over 15 million jobs.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? But most of those jobs will only be temporary. So unless you could get work in other places doing other things, and you got to have apprenticeship programs and pre-apprenticeship programs, so folks have the training they need to get the apprenticeship program, which is, I think, is something that's critical.
I noticed that is it Quicken started invested in pre-apprenticeship programs.
Yeah.
Apprenticeship programs for the high school.
Right.
Just last week.
Right.
One of the things that before we go, because I see our control room engineer
telling us to
coming
wrap
to
it up.
remind you, I was supposed to do this at the beginning of the hour. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Lola, who is the lady who is the receptionist here at WHPR TV 33, we want special prayers for Lola because her brother Orlando Williams was murdered he was shot on Thursday, April 19th at around 10:30 p.m. On Mark Twain at Puritan in front of his mother's house. And his heart didn't stop beating until Friday the next day around 4:30 p.m. or 4 o'clock p.m. It was mistaken identity, and our heart goes out to Lola and her family. We're so very sorry for your loss, and we will definitely keep you, Lola, and your family in our prayers. And we would ask for our WHPR guests and visitors and listeners and viewers to also keep Lola and her family
In your prayers.
in your prayers. So thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you
all
for
of
coming
that
on.
information.
Always good to talk to you. Always
Thank
a pleasure.
you for having me on.
Yes.
You are just a wealth of knowledge.
I didn't think I'd be talking about marijuana uses with my mother, but yeah, that kind of was not what the plan was today.
Yeah.
I want to talk about other stuff. I want to talk about the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah,
But that's how we
wasn't
do
what
it here on
supposed
the
to
Young
talk
Effect.
about. That was
That's what
what
we
were
do
supposed
here
to
on the
talk
Young
about.
Effect. Yeah. Happy Mother's
But we
Day,
love
everybody.
you. And
So,
we want you to have
man.
a great week and love your family. And we know you love Detroit, and we love you. Mwah. Have a
Our
great
State
week.
Senator Coleman Alexander Young II. Remember, nobody cares how much you know. So you know how much you care. Our State Senator, soon to be your next congressman, right here on the Young Effect. God bless you. We'll see you next time, right here on the Young Effect.